Hello, this is Yinchi Huang. I'm doing the homework 2, problem 2. In this problem, first we want to get the probability of x2 equals 1. And this probability equals to the probability that x2 equals to 1, meanwhile x1 equals 0, plus the probability of x2 equals 1, and meanwhile x1 equals 1. And we have this formula, so we can write this as x2 equals to 1, given that x1 equals to 0, multiply the probability that x1 equals to 0, plus the probability of x2 equals to 1, given that x1 equals to 1, multiply the probability that x1 equals to 1. And we have that this one equals to 0.4, and this one equals to 0.2, this one equals to 0.7, and this one equals to 0.8. So we can get our answer as 0.64. So this is the first problem. The second problem is to find the probability of x3 equals to 1. In this problem, we can similarly we can write the probability of x3 equals to 1 equals to the probability that x3 equals to 1, meanwhile x2 equals to 0, and the probability of x3 equals to 1, meanwhile x2 equals to 1. And this, similarly, we can write this as the probability of x3 equals to 1, given that x2 equals to 0, multiply the probability that x2 equals to 0, plus the probability that x3 equals to 1, given that x2 equals to 1, multiply the probability that x2 equals to 1. And we can calculate this one and this one. Use the first problem. We know that the probability that x2 equals to 1 equals to 0.64. So the probability that x2 equals to 0 equals to 0.36. So we use this one as 0.36, this one as 0.64, and we can get the probability of x3 equals to 1 equals to so the answer is 0. This one. So we solve the second problem. The third problem is to find the probability of x1 equals to 0, given that x3 equals to 1. And this one equals to the probability that x1 equals to 0. Meanwhile, x3 equals to 1, and divided by the probability of x3 equals to 1. This we have just get this one. So the problem is to solve this one, and the probability of x1 equals to 0, meanwhile x3 equals to 1, can be get by this. The probability of x3 equals to 1, given that x1 equals to 0, multiply the probability that x1 equals to 0. So our problem is converted into this one to calculate the probability of this one, and we can get from this one the probability of X-ray equals to 1 equals to this one. This is this formula. We use this formula, and we can rewrite it as this one. The 0.4 is the probability of this one, and 0.7 is the probability of this one. So they are the same. And similarly, the probability of S3 equals to 0 can be written as this one, similarly. And so the probability of S3 equals to 1 and the probability of X3 equals to 1 can be written as this one, just as this one. So x2 equals 0 and the probability of x2 equals 1 can be rewritten as this one. And now we replace this part as this part, so we can get this one. This is the probability of x1 equals to 0, and this is the probability of x1 equals 1. And we replace this one as this one, so we can get this. And if we calculate the square root of this matrix, we can get this. So what we get is the probability of S3 equals 0, the probability of S3 equals to 1 equals to 0.8, 0.2, 0.8, multiply the matrix of 0.48, 0.39, 0.52, 0.61. So we can write the probability of x3 equals to 1 equals to the probability of x3 equals to 1, given that x1 equals to 0, multiply the probability of x1 equals to 0 plus the probability of x3 equals to 1, given that x1 equals to 1, multiply the probability of x1 equals to 1. And this is 0.2, this is 0.8, so this one is 0.52. And this is what we want to calculate just now. So we replace this one as 0.52. So we can get this one as x1.20, s3 equals to 1 equals to 0.52 multiply 0.2 and divide equals to 0.176. So this is the answer of the third problem. The fourth problem is to find the limitation of probability n equals to 0. So we can know that the probability of xk minus 1 equals to 0 equals to the probability of xk equals to 0. So when we have this equation, we can have this. We let the probability of xk minus 1 equals to 0 equals to a. So we can have this equation, have this one. this one equals to the probability of. This is the same as this. And if we solve this equation, we can get A equals to 7/3. So the limitation we want to solve is (3/7).